Welcome back to HAMSTERMIND. We made it all the way to the bottom of the pyramid, but this is certainly not the end. First of all, I think what we have to do is pick up this light here and see what happens, if anything. But also, I've been making some progress with thinking about scarab puzzles, so in a bit we're gonna try my theories out and see if that gets us anywhere. But first, let's see if that does anything at all. A new light appeared. It goes over there. Another one over there. Another one over there. And there. I am seeing like this pattern on the floor, of course, with the different sticking out bits. Not sure if this will be of any importance, but yes, right now we're just running in the circle, picking up the lights, and it's charging up the lights on the pillars. Oh. Ooh. Light beams! The lights are on. Now that I've activated the light mechanism, I should be able to open the chest at the very top. So, time to see about that chest then. All the way back to the top. The cat is here. I've collected all the objectives and activated the mechanism at the bottom of the pyramid. But the chest is still inaccessible. Okay, I didn't know that. Spoilers. So yes, the cat's name, I've been reading it as Charon because that made sense to me, you know, reading English as far as I know. Someone mentioned that the name might be more like Karen because obviously it's taken from the name of the Greek god. But then someone else mentioned that, oh, because of French, they thought it would have been more like a pun on the French word for cat and the French word for pharaoh. And the devs of the game are French, and actually quite a bit of like things on the Steam page, if you look, they're in French as well. So that's still a possibility, and therefore it could be read more like Sharon or something. Again, my French pronunciation isn't great. As far as I know, something like chat is the French word for cat. So that's what I would think. Again, not anywhere near the actual French, but that's what my understanding of what the name may be came from. But yes, thank you to those who commented. It was interesting to explore this one a little bit. I told you. You'll never manage to open the chest that holds a wish. Did you really think it would be that easy? I actually like it when things aren't obvious. It means there's still something I haven't discovered. Don't waste your time. You will never think of going back to the... I almost spilled the secret. Okay, going back to the... something. So yes, this just says illuminate the treasure and the contents will be yours. Maybe it needs even more light. Maybe it does. So yeah, when we press it right now... it just goes, nah. Well, Hamstein wants to talk to us. I activated the whole mechanism, but the chest remains shut as if nothing. There's a steel right next to the chest. Have you tried reading what's written on it? It might help you see things more clearly. Yes, I mean, I just read it, so yes, it needs more light somehow. And we've also got more with Anne-Marie. Okay, so it's just more about the light. Okay, so they're just trying to help us. Nothing more is happening with them. Well, we'll get to that in a minute, or several, because while we're up here, what I want to get back to is all of my lovely scarabs in the secret scarab room. I've opened 2 of them, and I've had the clue for this one for quite a while, and then I was like, oh, it feels like I need more information because I just don't understand. But I've made progress. I've made progress of the game because it's something that just requires looking and thinking. So I've copied a bunch of this information and been thinking about it. So let's have a look at the clue from the board that tells us about this, right? So here we have this. It shows us 3 examples of the number squares and then what's the resulting 6-digit number. And then we've also have collected the clue here, which is here's the actual number grid that we have to solve in order to get the solution, right? So it does seem like we have all the information, we just have to extract the knowledge we need. And so this game has graduated to now needing a whiteboard to explain what's going on. So originally what I was quite confused about is like, are we picking numbers? Are we making some sort of calculations? Because as far as I'm concerned, the logic here has to be, we have to come up with rules that will be true for every single one of those grids, and therefore then we can replicate this rule in the final answer we need, right? That's what makes sense. What didn't make sense is like, it cannot be number picking, right? Because here we start with 4. If we said, okay, we pick the number at the bottom, well, here 3 does not make a 9, right? So immediately it's not number picking, at least not in the sense of like, oh, just first number comes from this specific position. And so what I started looking at is what operations could we do on this board that then replicate across all the boards, right? So how many ways can we make a 4? And there's a few, right? We have 3 plus 1 by combining the square and the circle. Then we have 5 minus 1 by combining this square, this circle. We can do 6 minus 2 by doing the diamond and the diamond on the other side, right? So that's some examples. And then if we look at it positionally, right? The 3 plus 1 was the top square and a circle. Here we have top square and a circle, 7 plus 2. That is equal 9. And then in here, top square plus circle, 2 plus 1 is a 3. By doing this, I can narrow down some pattern. So the first digit seems to come from combining those two numbers. Then the same thing for the 6, right? We can make a 6 by doing 5 plus 1. We can make a 6 by doing 4 plus 2. And so if we then look over here, the next digit we need to make is 3. And again, here the 5 plus 1 was the square on the right plus the circle, and here square on the right plus circle is 3, square on the right plus circle is 7. And that kind of starts forming a pattern of like, we started at the top, then we went here. So then we can check, hey, the bottom, 4 plus 1, 5, 3 plus 2, 5, 8 plus 1, 9. Okay, so that's getting us somewhere. And then for the final one, 8 plus 1 is 9, 4 plus 2, 6, 5 plus 1, 6. Great. We have the first 4 digits by just going around the squares and adding them to the circle. Which means for our final answer, we will have 9, 7, 8, and 6. So that's our first 4 digits. Now, where things got trickier is the final 2 digits, because what's immediately fun is that in every single one of them, the second to last digits is 2, right? Whatever the relationship is on the board, it would have to always be 2, and considering that they don't have the same numbers in the same positions, that seems like a tricky thing to achieve, right? There is a lot of ways to make a 2, like on this first board. I did go through, and then none of those operations had corresponding placements on the other boards in order to also get a 2. That's just seemed impossible. Well, but we know we're also left, basically, for none of the first 4 digits have we used any of the numbers in the diamond shapes. So we know we're left with them, and it feels like we have to do something with them. And if we look at what they are, we got 9, 7, 6, and 2. If we add all of them together, we get 24. In the second one, 8, 9, 5, and 6, 28. 7, 3, 4, and 9, 23. So it's tricky because the last 2 digits change the rule, and therefore you can't just go through the whole thing just doing one thing. You have to figure out what remains and what may make sense. And so for our answer, that will make the last 2 digits 3 and 0, because 8, 6, 7, and 9 add up to 30. Maths. So we can take that to the game and see if I'm right. 3 and 0. Try the combination. Let's see if my math is doing the math. And there we go. Another beetle for our collection. So no deeper secrets in here yet. Next, we've got this hieroglyphics puzzle where the clue for it is more maths. Believe it or not, more maths. So here it tells us that yes, we can take the symbols and we can assign them digit values that are unique per symbol, do operation based on the little patterns. So the long line with 2 squiggles is plus and just the squiggles is times. And we want to try the different combinations and then pick the biggest number. Again, where I was kind of stumped here is the fact that it wants the biggest number, but it has to be a 6-digit number in order for it to be a code for the scarab. But given the pattern of hieroglyphs here, right, it already tells us what the largest number is, and it's never going to be a 6-digit number. Which means I was like, oh, I must be missing a clue of what the actual pattern is that I'm trying to decipher, because again, this one is just an example, right? It just tells us what the example is, and the one on the scarab just lets us link the clue to saying this is the scarab where you need to solve it. But as I've already kind of marked it on the last video as a hint, when we go around the pyramid, there are those blue strips of hieroglyphs all over the top, and they are a repeating pattern between the 2 vertical lines, and they use more symbols than what the example was given, but they use some of the same symbols, and they use those same squiggles that are for multiply and add, which means it's worth trying to see if this is the math we're supposed to solve. And so this one is a bit more involved in terms of trying out the solution, because, well, they don't give us the numbers and we have to come up with what numbers to assign to the symbols, but also because there is more symbols, that makes the whole thing more complicated. So this time I had to move on to an Excel spreadsheet. So one thing I've done is replace the symbols with letters just to make it easy to write down here. And I basically went left to right and just, and I made it so that the cat is A, the boot is B, the scarab is C, the ankh is D, and the feather is E. Now, unlike algebra, where if you had like 2 letters next to each other, that would usually imply that they're multiplied together, it's just, that is skipped. Here, that's not true. Here, if the symbols are together in a string, that just means they're all concatenated into a single number. So AC is basically the concatenation of the value of the symbols A and C, so cat and scarab, and DECAC is a concatenation of all of the various symbols. So yes, we can basically express the entire thing as a formula, which means it makes it easier to like try some numbers and preview the outputs, right? Instead of having to do the math on paper for every combination. We are looking for 5 individual digits, right? They have to be unique. Each symbol has an individual digit. We can't make everything a 9 and be like, that's the biggest number. Doesn't work. But because we know we want the biggest number possible and they're single digit, we know we're gonna be going 98765, right? That's the digits we're going to use. So we could, of course, just go 98765 and see what happens, but that's obviously not going to be the answer, because depending on where each of the symbols appear, it will have different effect on the final result. You could absolutely just generate all the permutations of this, right? Because we have 5 digits, it's 120 permutations, so you could just all paste them, run them through the formula, find the max, and get the answer. But if we want to play a little bit with logic, if we look at how this is constructed, right? Because the first part of the equation is A times B times AC, and then that's added to the 5-digit DECAC. That means the value of the DECAC will have a significant impact on how large the final answer is, because it's literally just a 5-digit number. It's going to always be larger than what comes out of A times B times AC, because the largest number we can make there is 4-digit. Like we basically almost get it from doing this. Like if we make the A, B, and C the largest numbers, we get like 6,984. And so by that logic, we can basically tell that the start of the 5-digit numbers, so D and E, we want to give it the largest values we have. We're starting from a larger base. From there, the next largest value, I think it's A, both because it's used twice here. It starts off the 2-digit number and then is also a multiplier for it. So we can give it a 7. And then the other two can be distributed between B and C, basically just see what we get. So we could give a 6 and 5, or we could try the other option of being 5 and 6. But we can see that the B is 6, C is 5, gives us the larger number. And so from that, we can basically, by estimation, come to a conclusion that the largest number we can form is 101725. But because I don't trust my maths, after doing that, I did actually generate every single permutation and did find the max, and the answer is indeed 101725. I don't know what sort of thing the devs intended. Did they want us to do it like this, where we work out based on the pattern where we have to put the large numbers, or did they want us to just go through the options? But that's what I got. And so if we get back in the game and try this out, and let's see if I can math. There we go. Another scarab. Yes, it is. Okay. I'm confused. Why? Because one thing I've been going on about is that behind this beetle, there was like this tiny sliver of a white visible, and I was like, oh, it will move and there will be some secret. But then I'm like, was it just a thing where what they applied to the front of the scarab was sort of leaking to the back wall? I don't know how exactly do they render those things, but yeah, it may have been a visual glitch, and I was like, oh, it's a secret. I've been robbed of a secret. Now, for the final one with the mountains, that took me the longest to even catch the drift of what did they want us to do here. So in the notebook, it gives us the mountain with a Morse code, and what the Morse code says is even when you cannot play, you can decode. And therefore, I was like, okay, cannot play, what does that mean? Could be like, is it outside of the game? So I've had like looks through the Steam page, I had a look through the game files, see if there was anything there that would be like either mountains or Morse code, because obviously that's the kind of two visual clues we're getting, and that G as well. I had a look through the notebook, but didn't find anything. So that kind of turned out to be dead ends. I did then consider running around the pyramid and just like looking for any sort of mountain visuals to see if there's anything, although I'm not sure how it did add up to the clue. But instead, what it did eventually remind me of is the fact that on the loading screens, you get the various texts that are like, oh, you know, if you can't solve a puzzle, take a break, but come back, or whatever else. One of them says something like, sometimes the answer is directly in front of you, and stuff like that. So, and then just looking at the loading screens, what do they have? They have images of mountains on them. So that was like, well, it seems like I've hit onto something. The first thing I was trying to do is, because I noticed that when you're loading, you get the 5 kind of icons of characters and they're doing little jumps. And then in Morse code, every single number is 5 symbols long. So it starts with like dot, dash, 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 and like the dots kind of move along the line for the consecutive numbers. So I tried like analyzing, basically recording the loading screen and analyzing the footage of the characters jumping to see if like, oh, if I took the jump as a dot, would that make a number? And that sort of works at the start because it like made 1, 2, 3, but after that there's an issue where 2 characters in the middle have jumped and the ones on the sides are standing down, and whichever way we took it, whether jumping is dot or a dash, that's not a pattern that's valid for a number in Morse code. So that sort of failed. But after that, from staring at that footage, I've realized that there are actual mountains. There are actual mountains scrolling at the bottom of the loading screen. And further so, the mountains are in groups of 5. And if you wait long enough, and that's kind of was another thing, because obviously the loading screen, as soon as you're loaded, it skips. So, you know, depending on how fast your computer's going. It can be short, it can be longer. But something I saw early on when I was setting up the game is that there is a setting to turn off auto-skipping loading screen. That is a weird thing for a game like this, right? It's something that I would maybe expect in like an action game because, oh, you load in and then you're gonna have to start fighting, shooting. Right here, you don't. It's just puzzles. They're not gonna hurt you. So the fact that you can turn that off was interesting, and obviously if you do that, you get to stare at the loading for as long as you want. And so then, if you just go in, load up to any room, we're gonna go all the way to the bottom, just to see if we missed anything there based on what Karen or Sharon was saying to us. Yeah, if we look at the loading screen now, as the mountains are scrolling past again, they're all in the groups of 5 with then a flatland. From time to time, we also get this palm tree. It's not just randomly from time to time. It's exactly 6 sets of mountains apart. So you can see how this is all coming together. And then if we read the mountains as short mountains are dots, large mountains are dashes, well, we will get a 6-digit number. So now we have to go back up and enter that. But yes, I was like, should check this chamber if there's anything here that's interactive or a hole in the wall, but I don't think so right now. So wherever we have to go back to is not here. Back to the top it is. So from decoding the mountains on the loading screen, we get to a number 147163. So if we go and enter that into our scarab, let's see if that works out. Because obviously I say those things like, oh yeah, and I worked out all of this and it makes sense, but it's like, I could be totally wrong and just making this up. And it opens. And I guess we're just getting another scarab because that's all those been about. Yes, another beetle. Which means all this room was about is gathering 5 additional beetles that I guess otherwise would have been inaccessible and we wouldn't have been able to complete the collection. Something else I wanted to check on was that, as I said previously, he has a number 1 on his hat, so I wanted to see the different outfits to see if they have hidden numbers as well. So on the hamster dot, yes, there is, there we go, 89. So then on the professor outfit, we got anything? Yes, a 9. And on the original outfit, I'm not seeing anything. So this might be the case of it's only a thing if we unlocked an outfit, right? Because that would make sense. And therefore, if we unlock everything, that would make a number. Or it would give us a value for each of those symbols, right? Because then we would have top hat is 9, moon is 89, and the skull and bones is 1, right? And then the mountains would be something and the question mark would be something. So it might be a code for something, but until we unlock everything, we won't know what it is. But something interesting to think about, like this game is leaving us lots of little crumbs as well. So regarding this light and the chest and what's going on, because the clue that this reminds me of is in the notebook here. We've had this board, right, that says 1 question mark, 5 exclamation mark, and the lights between the chest and the bottom of the pyramid. So this seems very relevant here. But as far as I can see here, there are 5 lights, right? There's the one in the middle and the 4 around it. So let's go back to where I found this clue, which I think was here just in the previous challenge, to see if I can see anything else. Oh, okay. So now there is a light just going through the middle of the puzzles. Let me just check other floors. Yes. There is a light coming through the middle, but there is a single light coming through the middle. Yes, only that one is coming through, which means there must be a way to put all 5 through. Like we have to make room somehow for that to happen. Now another thing I'm thinking about is the pony glyphs, right? Those, as I call them, useless horses. Because they always say, don't forget you can rotate the room you're in. And then they say something else that also doesn't seem to matter too much. But I'm absolutely convinced by now that it's something, right? It's some sort of cryptic clue we have to decipher as well. Like even the whole, don't forget you can rotate the room you're in. Like, is there some way we could maybe rotate the whole room in the pyramid or something like that? Yes, then he just talked about the cat with a butter toast strapped to his back. So it's like, does that mean anything? And also interesting because this is the A1 first floor puzzle. And there is a hole in here, which means moving was possible all along. And I just wasn't doing it. But yes, now that I moved this, I can see that it has a hole in that corner and the other ones as well. Which means we could arrange this floor so that it would be possible for all the lights to come through, like if we turn them around. But right now there is no lights coming through because obviously they're getting blocked lower down in the bottom. So with that in mind, we probably want to start from the bottom so we have the lights coming through all the way up, which means we have to resolve 7 rooms for arranging the holes the right way around, assuming they all have holes. I mean, by now I assume they must do, right? I can already see them. So yes, now we're looking into, yes, how do we rearrange them so that we can still move around? Yes, now that I moved it like that, the light is coming out from that hole to another level. I think what I need to think about is, yes, which ones, like where can I still have the connections while I am able to exit, and what am I able to move around? Because like I turn this from here, I can't leave, right? Like for this corner to work, I would have to be in that bottom row, because then I can exit, right? Which means I have to enter here from that separate section of this puzzle. Which probably means there are other steps I have to do first in other puzzles. So if I leave this tile in this position when I exit, we can still get into that corner from the top. But that means before we do this, I need to rearrange those top tiles. So I can get into here, which will connect to there. This lets me be here and exit. And I think that's... It's just, yeah, if I do this, the tile above has to be turned to the other side to face the join on the left while I'm able to do stuff here. Right, because I could exit here and then enter back from the bottom, but that only works if I can leave that bottom right tile in the other orientation. And this way I can change this so that the red cube is gone. And I can actually turn this the right way so that the light comes through. Then I can go in here, enter this. That connects like this and like this, so I have the light and the exit. But that actually means I want to be here, turn it so the light comes through, I can exit, re-enter here. Do the light, I can exit, and yes, now I can reach the bottom tile and turn it around. Okay, and yes, and then I can exit, and now all 5 lights are coming through this level, right? That's 1 of 7, because now if we go further up, we will be seeing the lights through. There isn't a particular order we have to solve it then, because obviously the lights will always come through eventually. But I guess I just like seeing the feedback of the light coming through. But yes, this means every single one of those 7 puzzles has an alternative solution for us to discover. Okay, here, well, the interesting part is that there's only 1 exit for us, which means whatever we're doing, it has to work for us always coming back to this first tile. So there are places where we can hide, yes, where... this will work. Maybe we're just rearranging it to the original position it was all in. Because originally we had to turn it all around to access the light that was hidden in that bottom thing here behind the dog, but I guess it was solved right away when we were here, where this was a lot easier than the one below. So hopefully the rest will not be too hard. Here's hoping, right? But this is like endgame, not endgame. Again, I expect more. So I'm sure they got tricks up their sleeves. Off to A5 we go. Okay, here even more interesting because the two of the tiles will not be able to move. So here's what we want for this corner. Then, oh, we have to deal with the bottom corner first. Okay. So here we have to turn it like that. Light comes through, we exit. Here we have to turn it like that. Light comes through, exit. Okay, well, that's actually not too bad either. So that's 3 down, 4 to go. Okay, this one does have lots of exits, so it might be as confusing as the other one, where yes, we have to plan a lot around where we go, because there will be blockages and stuff. Okay, I can't push the cube out of the puzzle, but yes, let's see how things connect. Okay, immediately no connections to the other puzzles here. This one, well, I'm stuck in that corner, so I will need to find myself somewhere I can exit. It might also be that we need to approach it from some other way. Let's see if we come through here and turn it to the hall. Okay, it ends up this way. I mean, most of them have entrances as well, so that's interesting. It's just that whether I can then exit. Okay, I can exit here. So in theory, that's the two top ones done, unless we need to use them to like free ourselves, right? Because the thing is with this tile, that once I do this block is keeping me here, and I can't push it out, and I can't get around it to push it some other way unless I'm able to loop. So that's where I assume the tricks come in. Looking through this a bunch, it seems like the bottom right tile is the awkward tile, right? If we solve this tile, the only way out of it is like having to ride in that little 2 square corner, or being able to exit through that red jelly, which is currently blocked because I moved the cube. The rest of them, generally, they can be turned so that I can easily both have them in the correct orientation and get out then. Right, because I can go into this one, turn it the way it needs to be, and I still have an exit. Similar to this one, I can turn it like this and exit. But it's just a question of how do we make the other one work. And especially, there are some other tricks, right? Because it's like easy to get stuck in those corners. So it's not like everything else is fine and easy, but that one seems the hardest. So I can have it like this, but then yes, what do I do? I can exit through here. That is not the right position for this tile, but are there things I can do just with the other tiles without this whole thing becoming a problem? So we can get the other ones in position. I can exit here. Okay, so yes, that gives me the solution in terms of the lights, but I can't leave. Right? I can't push this out. I can push it in, but then I am stuck with the jellies around here. Which means, yes, then my only way out is to basically go through all the tiles, rotate them again, and exit somewhere else, but then that destroys the whole order of things. Because when this tile is in right position, our only exit is back to this tile. Right, that's the problem. Unless we're riding in that tiny, tiny gap up there. Which we can only do if we enter it from the top. Because otherwise we can't make the connection. Alright, so we can have that gap, and then our exit is either here or here. If we rotate like this, then we can be here. Turn it around like that. And now we got all 5, and I can leave. Okay, it's done. A4 is defeated. but that one was harder. I think it's like, yeah, when they have multiple exits for us to go through, then it's like, oh, you gotta do a lot of more tricks of what fits where. Up to A3, we're over halfway there. So here we already got 4 of the lights coming through, but I assume it will not be that easy either because, yeah, there are already multiple exits and entrances, so that will probably be where the tricky part is. However, let's see, because yeah, now we can turn this right, and actually we can exit, so don't worry about it. Off to A2 we go. Again, multiple entrances. Let's see how it pans out. We can do this, this, and this, and actually just loop around and leave. Okay. Thanks for being so nice to me, game. And A1. So I faffed with that a little bit at the start, and I was like, let's go to the bottom. Yes, here we get 1 for free, because there's just a tile missing. Let this not deceive us into thinking this one is easy, because that means we need to decide the arrangement of the tiles and how will that work so that we can exit, right? Because hey, we can move things around, but that just means there are multiple exits, we can go multiple places, move the tiles around, and therefore there is a lot bigger decision space of where could things possibly fit, right? Because now we can get into this tiny bit so that we can make a connection, and that lets us move this light, but then we're stuck because that top exit is only accessible from that tiny path. It's not accessible from this larger middle path, which means this tile cannot be last one we solve, because then we can't leave. So this has to be something that we solve like this. Although, yes, again, that would make sense maybe if we know this is the position for the tile, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, if it's arranged like this, I can come all the way through, and then I'm able to rotate from here. Does that help? Actually it does if that part's there. So that's almost it, except again the top left is not there. Because that would require me to be arranged differently again. So I would have to come through here, do this whole bit, turn it like this, then there's no access. So it does really feel like it wants to be in a different place. Unless we're just not making use of that exit, right? Because this lets it be like this. So that meets that corner. We can be like this, so we have those corners. Now just the poneglyph tile, that's wrong. We turn it like this so that the small space is exposed. That will connect like this, but then we're back to being stuck. It's tough. So I do think I want the poneglyph square up here, because then it can connect to here, the light is coming through. But then yes, I can get down here, and actually that leaves that top tile correct. And then if we move to here, okay, that's all of them, and I can actually leave. Yay. Again, that one was tougher, although it was tougher for me. Maybe it's easy for someone else. Like, some of them click easier. I think, yeah, what's trickier about this one is because we can't move tiles, and therefore we have to decide which space should we occupy with which tile on top of turning them the right way around and having an exit. But yeah, that's A1, which means it's everything. We're going to open the treasure? Or, you know, several other tricks. Now the corners are lit up, everything's lit up. So, are we ready for this? Oh, it's shaking. Be big. What's going on, Sharon? Karen? One of those. Why can't I claim my wish? And where are my friends? Yeah, I was noticing that they're all gone. Did you really think I'd give you a wish so easily? But I've uncovered the secret of the pyramid and solved your puzzles. My puzzles, yes. But you haven't defeated me. the great Sharon. I challenge you to a duel, Jones. Okay, now it's an action game. Okay. He's sucking me into his portal. This has taken a turn. Karen, what are we doing here? I challenge you to a battle of wit, Jones. You can't run away. Oh no, where are my friends? If you want to see them again, you'll have to face me. Get ready. This game layout reminds me of something. I might have some notes in my journal list. That looks a bit like the Cat Sparrows game that we had in our journal early on. This one here. So everyone has 3 pieces. Bring your 3 pieces to the other side. You must move one of your pieces to an adjacent orthogonal empty space. If you can't move, your turn is skip. And then it shows us a picture from the duel. So I assume that's a clue. Which means, yes, we gotta do battle. And yes, we gotta do battle with the room pieces and all like that. And we've gotta save our friends. And there's still 20 more scarabs to find and more puzzles to find and more language stuff to crack. So there will be more videos about this game. We're gonna leave it here. So you have to come back next time to see if I can defeat this giant cat in a duel of moving some pieces of the floor. So let me know in the comments what you think about this whole reversing the pyramid and getting the lights in, and how many more secrets can there possibly be. And if you enjoyed that one, consider liking or subscribing. Thank you to channel members for supporting the channel, and I will see you soon on another adventure.